and it is absolute pleasure and privilege to welcome to the last edition of Sarah's Country two extremely visionary leaders in our primary sector. Former founder of Agri-Women's Development Trust. I don't like saying former because I feel like she's still 100% connected to the sector, Agri-Women's Development Trust, founder Lindy Nelson, who is a member of the New Zealand Order of Merit, and the CEO of Rural Leaders New Zealand, Chris Parsons, who has an incredible history in leadership through our military services. Thank you so much for coming on board. Everyone's going to their blimmin' Christmas parties, and it's just so wonderful that you could both join us tonight to celebrate because, oh, goodness, what a way to end the year of all years. Lindy, I'll start with you. What was the pinnacle where you saw leadership absolutely stand up in a year like 2020?
That we got on with it. Farmers got on with it. We absolutely made a connection, and I think it's been spoken about before tonight around food insecurity, and genuinely tried to find ways to connect to our fellow New Zealanders and think about how we were going to basically take New Zealand forward. And so in all of those ways that farmers worked harder, totally understanding now that the ability for New Zealand to thrive as a country is now pretty much on the primary sector. So, you know, it's all the ways that we connected with urban New Zealanders. And that wasn't just meet the need and the likes of Tony Egan. You know, I'm really privileged to talk to farmers all around the country, and in a way they were directly connecting into their communities. And so absolutely, that's amazing. The stuff the industry is doing, you know, I think we can be very, very proud of our industry bodies and the people who are in our industry bodies and are leading us through really unprecedented times and putting that product out there on a global stage.
Chris, 4,500 graduates with Agri-Women's Development Trust and thousands that are a part of the alumni of Kellogg's and Nuffield under the New Zealand Rural Leadership Trust. It is really grassroots when it comes to driving change, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think excellence begins in the detail. That's not to say we should think small, but we start there, we get the detail right, and then we move forward. And I think that's what our farmers, growers, crafters have been doing through the whole of the COVID experience, in putting others first, looking after their stock, getting out every day, finding new ways to do things. And so, yeah, absolutely, our grassroots leaders have done us proud, I believe.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. And the thing is that, Lindy, I opened there with that quote from Theodore Roosevelt, and it's about, you know, digging deep, you know, in the dust, you know, getting back up again over and over again. With rural New Zealand's having its confidence knocked for so many times in a row, and they feel publicly attacked, what is your advice in being able to get back up and keep going?
I think it really comes down to mindset and who you surround yourself with. I mean, if you seek people who are like-minded and are visionary and are motivating, then you're going to feel that. If you seek people who are going to really keep you down in the dust and are doom and gloom, then that's where you're going to be. So mindset is huge. And, you know, there are so many great initiatives from Farm Strong all through that really can help people focus and change mindset. You know, we did a great program online this year with Beef and Lamb around grow your mindset, grow your influence. And it's as simple as that. If we can adapt and change our mindset, if we can understand ourselves in the situation, surround ourselves with people who are going to motivate us, then we can be successful.
Chris, we talk a lot about how do we enact change, but it comes from an empowered individual to start with. What is the most rewarding thing that you see in the development of personal ownership over your own influence once that tap's turned and they're away?
Yeah, I think empowerment's really an interesting dimension between another leader letting go and the new leader stepping up. and that interplay happens in so many different ways. And so for us, seeing as Lindy would through AWDT, as we see the leaders coming through our programs and seeing them gain confidence and just being, and then their bosses allow them to innovate and create inside of on their farms or in their agribusinesses. That's always the most exciting piece, just to see that new confidence.
Lindy, are we actually fostering an environment for this to actually be able to be possible, what Chris has just said?
Yes and no. So it comes down to self-discipline and self-awareness. And I never forget when I literally had just launched the trust, stepped off the stage in Parliament, and Fran Wild came up to me and said, "Leave while they're still asking you to stay. And one day you're the rooster and the next you're the feather duster." And of all the things that I heard that night, strangely enough, that kind of went in. And so, growing leadership is one thing, growing your own leadership, but then getting out of the way and letting people take things forward. And so I see some great examples of people doing that. I see some examples where people are hanging on and they're not, shifting over to allow new innovation and new thinking coming through. And so there's a whole pipeline. I mean, we have to mentor, we have to promote, we have to recognise, we have to, in some ways, train leaders, but then we have to give them the opportunity to actually lead.
Absolutely. I mean, I am not a massive rugby follower, but there is examples of that. If you don't nurture grassroots rugby, you won't see it at the top with the All Blacks. Chris, in all of your years prior to coming to Rural Leaders, what was some of those examples, leading on from what Lindy just said there, of nurturing leadership through?
Yeah, so some fantastic examples through the military. And I always think of Sir Jerry Mataparai, Tim Keating, and other great leaders like that, Peter Kelly, who really put their ego in their hip pocket, trust their people, and let them get at it. And so telling them why something needs to happen and what they would like them to achieve, but not telling them how to do it. Is always this interesting sort of dimension, but allowing people then to figure out how to do it, having an open door so they can come back and you can sort of innovate and iterate the plan. That's fantastic, but just giving people that space to make their mistakes and have their back when they do is a really important leadership skill, and the best leaders I've observed have been masters at that.
Lindy, the development of environmental regulations is something where I know a lot of farmers are just saying, you know what, just tell me what you want from me and how I can achieve this. They're over the why, and having tangible ways of being able to feel like you're making a difference. It must be extremely hard when a lot of it's done behind the farm gate and people can't see it.
Yeah, so I think I understand your question. Are you saying people are actually doing the right thing now?
Being able to feel like you are moving forward and you are doing the right thing when there isn't those benchmarks in place, to be able to benchmark when there's so much unknown.
Yeah, and look, that would come right up to, there is a political game at play, and I think the faster we can actually put a line in the sand and say, here's where we all need to get to, bearing in mind that for each environment that the farmer works in, it is different, and so we can't have blanket rules right across, but that doesn't stop us from still doing the right thing, and we know what that is. And we see examples of that every single day. And to me, I don't want to wait till the government tells me what to do. I'm going to do it in any case because it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, Chris, there's the one thing, and I'd love to know the leaders that you're nurturing through the Kellogg's and Nuffield is how to keep that form of integrity, that humble leadership of doing the right thing when no one's watching.
Yeah, so as Lindy says, that comes down to principles and ethics, and we try to explore that whole topic and then bring that out. I think in the end, your authentic leadership self, if you like, is based on your character, and that doesn't necessarily mean strictly a moral sense. It can mean your characteristics as well, but that's what your authenticity comes from. And in terms of doing the right thing, a nice little way to test yourself on that is the things that you're prepared to walk past is the standard that you accept. And so, making our rivers clean, looking after our animals, looking after our staff, all of those things, pretty core to us, I think, as our primary sector leaders.
Mm. I was on an amazing group chat. I've got to celebrate this yesterday. Last night, Tangaroa Walker, Duncan from NZ Farming, Laura Douglas from Real Country, and Kane Briscoe and myself. And we were all come together sharing in some of those challenges when you're in those positions of just go, 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 and taking on board so much from a public-facing perspective. So I'd really love to end on a way of being able to give your advice on being able to shut off and look after number one to be able to help others. Lindy, how do you go about that, and what's your suggestions?
Well, I'm laughing because I have the same strategy, and it has worked and it hasn't worked for 10 years. So we've got a place in the Marlborough Sounds, and for the last 10 years I've been wanting to be able to say, can I go from a few weeks to 6 weeks? And this year I think I've nailed it. It's off the grid. So I walk every day. I accompany my husband fishing. I'm not a fisher person myself. Read a lot of books and really have time in my own head in nature. And there is a lot of research to say that nature is the most grounding element that we can possibly get. So I think find the thing that lets you go into your own thoughts, be imaginative, be visionary, think about the future, and put your day-to-day hassles aside. And what really worries me around New Zealand is a lot of farmers are not taking a break off the farm, and so it's very hard to be able to achieve that without a physical break.
Chris, your thoughts?
Yes, I talk a good game on this, but I'm pretty hopeless, to be honest. But the technique that I use is to go running. And it kind of does that same restorative thing that Lindy's talking about. For me, it's getting out there, getting toxins out of my system, freeing my brain to think, and then that just sort of gets the blood flowing, and then I can come back renewed. So for the most part, that's my simple tactic.
Thank you so much. It's a privilege to have both of you on Serious Country in the last edition. Founder of Agri-Women's Development Trust, Lindy Nelson, and Chris Parsons, the CEO of Rural Leaders. Can I give a shout out to the Knowledge Hub podcast, which is out now, and very soon the episode will drop, where Kate Scott, the host of that, goes into full detail with Lindy and Chris. And I can swear to God, it is one of the best episodes on podcasts that you can ever watch. So go and subscribe to Knowledge Hub so that you make sure that you're in the know as soon as that drops.
This is Serious Country.